Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and today we would like to discuss about water. Water is, as we say, is life, and most of us live on pure water. At least animals and humans who are dwelling on the land needs pure water. And now as the time passes, the water is getting more and more scarce. So to discuss this matter, which is very very vital for all of us, let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Neville Good.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. You just caught me having a sly little drink of water. So, yes, water. It's Adam's Ale, as we call it here. What do you call it in India? Do you have a specific nickname for it?
Well, there are many nicknames in India. I think more to do so because of the many languages. So there is Jal. It is also called Neer. It's also called Life. I'm just translating in English for the benefit of international listeners. Uh, so there is a phrase in India called Jal hi Jeevan hai, which is water is life, and things like that.
Excellent, excellent. But let's look at the practicalities of water. As most people know, or maybe they don't know, you know, water actually comes from the mountains. Our fresh water comes from the mountains and fills up underground reservoirs, and then that's pumped into your home, your apartment, your office, your building, where you have fresh water, in essence. In the UK, it goes through many cleaning plants because a lot of our water's reused time and time and time again. In fact, I live just outside of London, and apparently I could be drinking water 10 times over. So I drink it once, it goes into the sewage system, it's cleaned, I drink it again, I drink it again, I drink it again, up to 10 times. Now, that's probably turned a lot of people off, CK. The fact that we're drinking our own water. In fact, we're drinking, in many respects, worse than our own water because it's gone through a cleaning process. But that's why it's such a scarce resource. We can't just manufacture water. We can't just say, hey, we need to rain a bit more and we're going to fill up this reservoir. Because again, I mean, even in the monsoons, you don't really want too much water because the reservoirs have got a finite limit. And ideally, we would like it to rain when we need to fill the reservoir rather than raining when the reservoir is already full. But unfortunately, we can't predict that. It's not like a business. We can't just, as they say, turn on the taps and turn off the taps. But we do expect to turn on the taps and turn off the taps when we go to the sink or the bathroom and we turn on that water supply. Have you ever gone to any premises anywhere in the world, turned on a tap and nothing happened?
Well, if there is no water, that definitely if you turn on the tap, there will be no water. I think that is what happens. But Neville, let me give some statistics to our viewers, and the statistics are the amount of water we have on Earth. We all say that Earth is a water world, but on the contrary, it is a very dry world. It does not have a lot of water. If you look at the total mass of Earth, the water that we have in terms of volume is only 0.66%, which includes all the ocean, all the ponds, lakes, rivers, glaciers, and everything. It is 0.66% of the Earth total mass. So it is not something which is a major item available on Earth. And if you compare any other planet, probably other planets have more water than Earth. The advantage we have is that we have a weather system which takes the water from the ocean and rains it down on the mountains. And in this process, water is getting desalinated because most of the animals who are living on the surface, which is not in the water, they actually survive on the fresh water, which is without salts. So when the water get evaporated and then again rains down and then accumulate into a river, glaciers and lakes and ponds, it is actually without the salts. And that kind of weather system creates fresh water that is even less than the water that we have, total water that we have on earth. And water is becoming such a big problem for humans because the fresh water is so scarce. We don't have enough water bodies on the ground to store the water. We don't have, and the population is increasing. As per the estimate, a human being on an average requires 2 to 3,000 gallons of water per day. So if there are 7 billion people on earth, you can do the math. So much fresh water is required every day. Yet many of us are very irresponsible, and we actually, you mentioned about opening a tap and we don't get water many times, but there are certain people who just leave the tap open, and it's basically wasting the fresh water which has come after so much of effort. Now we don't see that effort happening, but the planet is working overtime to create fresh water for us, taking water from the ocean, taking it to stratosphere, then raining it down on the mountains so that we can get fresh water and we can live. So I think that is the whole point of today's discussion, that water is going to become next gold. I think that is what we need to drive today, Neville.
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation, CK, and you're absolutely right that we take these things for granted. And interestingly enough, if you go around the world, even supermarkets, big grocery stores sell water, and they sell it in bottle form. So there's a huge commercial arena where we bottle up this water, we ship it halfway around the world, and then we sell it to someone else in some other part of the world. And of course, that bottled water is causing the single-use plastic problem. And all of these are sustainable development goals that the UN has identified, the 17 sustainable development goals that we need to start working on so that by 2030, we've got a better place to live. Well, we can start learning those today. We can have a better place to live today. So why don't we just focus on ways we can conserve water? There are a number of ways we can do that. The first thing, you just mentioned it, CK, turn the tap off. Don't just leave the tap running. If you're brushing your teeth, which I do, every morning and every evening, as I'm told to do when I was very, very young, I don't leave the tap running while I'm brushing my teeth. And of course, I'm going to be using the water to swill my mouth out, but I might just wet the brush with the tap on, then turn the tap off, because you're putting toothpaste on the brush and you're brushing toothpaste into your mouth. You don't have to keep the tap running all that time. And here in the UK, we have a national norm, because our water companies are told that you must supply a minimum of 10 litres per minute. Now, let's just imagine what that is, okay? 10 litres per minute. How many minutes are you told to brush your teeth, CK?
Well, I guess at least a minute, but if you do it for 2 to 3 minutes, it will have the best effect.
Yeah, so 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, that's what they say, up and down, side to side, round and round. 2 to 3 minutes. Let's just say it's 2 minutes. That's 20 litres of water to brush your teeth. Imagine 20 litres of water. This is a pint, which is half a litre. So we're talking about 40, just over 40 pints. 40 of these just to brush your teeth. Well, in actual fact, all you need is about that much water. Swill it down and spit it out. I'm not going to spit it out because you'll have to duck. Okay, I haven't got a sink in front of me. But that's all you need. Whereas you've wasted not just 40 times, but 200 times that amount of water you've just wasted by leaving that tap on while you're brushing your teeth. A simple example. So, what's another good example, CK?
Well, I think the next best example is the RO purifier, which is fitted in everybody's house today. Because we are so concerned about waterborne diseases, everyone has a RO purifier. And the RO purifier with UV and blah, blah, so many other technologies to purify our drinking water wastes half the amount of water. So, it is just going down the drain, and it could water the plants, it could be your grey water, but we are not giving our mind to it, and we are just, just throwing that water away. So 50% of water, like you said, 10 liters per minute, and if you're having an RO in your home, 5 liters is anyway getting wasted anyway in the process itself. So I think that is the biggest bottleneck in today's environment, especially in so many urban homes.
And you make a good point, because when you're on a cruise, when you're on a ship, they have grey water and black water. And if you're using the dishwasher or the washing machine on a ship, that ends up going into grey water. So they reuse it, and they reuse it somewhere else on the ship. You don't drink it, although if it goes through several purification processes, you can drink it, actually. Believe it or not, because as I said at the beginning of this show, I drink water that's been 10 times purified. So I might drink it on a Monday, and I'm drinking it the following Thursday, which is quite ridiculous when you think about it. But that's why it's such a scarce commodity. Although we can't at the moment, there's no way we can commercially make water. We can take water out of the air with these water making machines, which are absolutely fantastic. And anyone that knows anything about a fridge, the way a fridge works, well, this water creator works in reverse. It works on condensation in reverse, and it actually pulls moisture out of the air. So that's another way that we're being smart about how we're making water and reusing it, as you say. That water that comes into the house that goes through your purification point, I don't know, there are so many different models out there, but presumably you can just snip the waste pipe and put it into a bottle and reuse that bottle maybe even in the toilet. Fill up the toilet system, put it in the tank if you've got a tank, or put it into the plant pots, grow some vegetables. Again, all of these are great sustainable development goals. So what about another way, CK?
Well, I think many people are totally ignorant about the RO machines that we fit, and they cost hardly anything. Every household has, every apartment has these RO machines. I think that is becoming a major waste issue, water wastage issue, at least in a country like India, which has so many people here. And if everyone has an RO machine, half the water of Indian subcontinent is getting wasted. I mean, just imagine the amount of water getting wasted in a country like India. And India has only 0.3% of the freshwater resources as compared to the world. So we have so many people and we have less water. So I think the Indians must really be conscious about saving their water first of all. And just for information, Neville, I think a lot of preparations are being done in India where the water is going to be charged. I mean, there was a very small charge for giving water because in India, people never considered water as a chargeable commodity. They always felt that it is a responsibility of the government to give it to us for free, or give it to us for very low price. So the amount of bill that we get for water is not even comparable to the amount of effort which is involved in pumping the water into your home. You need to have a large tank and a large sump, and then pipe all over the place, and then pumps to pump it in your houses. It's not even comparable. But now, because there is less water and more people, the municipalities across India are now thinking of charging very heavy on the water, And I think the only solution we are left with is to not to have RO machines in our own house. I think the time has come to become smart, to put smart meters into the main supplies of our homes. And when we are paying for water as a commodity, we only pay for pure water. So we should actually put the onus back on the municipalities where they are giving us pure water, rather than we have the responsibility of purifying it. They themselves should purify it and pump the drinking water into our houses, so that we know exactly what we are getting and what we are paying for. I think the India is moving in that direction. If not next year, maybe next couple of years, this will be the reality for India.
Oh, I expect it will. And interestingly enough, you mentioned water meters. I have a water meter in my house. Um, when we had 5 children living at home, we used a lot of water. Now there's just my wife and I, and the odd child that comes back home while they're moving house. We use a lot less water. So I'm paying for the water that we use, which makes sense, really. Despite the fact we've got a large house, we don't use a tremendous amount of water. I don't invest in bottled water, by the way. The only time I do that is when I'm run out of water when I'm going walking and I have to go into a shop and I buy it. Because I'm against this single-use plastic. Because these bottled water products, you can't reuse the plastic. It literally has to be crushed and put to landfill or burnt, which means it goes into the atmosphere once you've burnt it. So there's no good way of reusing this. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think like anything else, if municipalities make the investment, it's cheaper per capita to do it that way. That's the whole point of them. But of course, like the pipe work we have here, it's not all plastic. It's lead, underground, been there for years, typically since the Victorian era, as far as I'm concerned, certainly around London. And it's susceptible to break and spillage and bursts. And we're constantly having our water companies going out, fixing and patching all of these places. It costs a lot of money to dig up roads and put new pipework in. So let's not make too simple a point about this. This is quite a long-term approach that needs to be taken. But because water is scarce, we need to be taking that long-term approach now. But as you said, and as I've said, people can start doing that in their own homes. They can start thinking about how they use water. They can start thinking about turning taps off rather than just leave them running. Because once that is a scarce resource, sometimes scarce resources cannot be replenished. And in 30 years' time, we will have a huge global shortage of water. And typically, there'll be plenty of water, but it'll be in the wrong place. So we've got to take it from one place to the other.
Well, Naval, there is another issue that we need to talk about today, and that is the industrial production of water. And as you said, that we can't produce water, but then there are certain industries where the byproduct or the waste material is pure water, pure distilled water. So I think we should look at those kind of industries. For example, I can give one example. If you have a aluminium production plant, you get aluminium, which is basically found in earth. It is actually more abundant metal on earth than iron. And if you actually purify and produce more and more aluminium, the byproduct of that, or a waste material which is coming out of that factory, is pure water. So you can actually use the ocean water to make your aluminium, and as a waste material you get pure water, which you can use it for your drinking purpose and for your recreation, etc. So I think these are certain things that we should keep in mind. There may be other methods of producing water, something like evaporation, condensation method you mentioned in the beginning of our show. All you need is a little knowledge of physics and a small tarp, a transparent tarp, to produce water for you. It will generate directly from atmosphere at least 2 to 3 buckets of water, something like 50 to 60 liters every day for free. So I think you can do that. The third thing you can do individually is put the rainwater harvesting, especially when in a country like India there is so much rain. There is so much rain that there are floods, and it's I think we know about it for last 6,000 years. If the rain happens, monsoons will come, there will be flood in certain areas, and especially in certain part of the country, the rain when it starts, it will not stop for 15 to 16 days. Continuous rain day and night. There is so much of water. So I think we should prepare ourselves to not let that water go through the drain. Collect whatever water it is actually falling on the roof of my house, purify it and store it in a tank. So I think these are certain mindful things that we should think of to to resolve the problem of production, because we have scarce water, we are not able to produce it. Water is not coming from the heaven, as in the Hindu mythology it says that the water flow down from the heaven. It is not. It is actually a set amount of water that we have on earth, and we need to find a way of producing it by doing our industrial changes in our industrial processes. And the fourth thing is we should construct small dams, not very large dams. Small dams, because large dams will create another issue of creating large tanks, and that can create small tsunamis inland. So we should not actually create large dams, but small dams. And I will quote example of Colorado River. So finally, it's a big river, but then US has constructed multiple dams on that river, and finally, when it reaches ocean, it's like a small trickle of water which goes into the ocean. And it's in the state of California, where the water, it's in desert. So they are actually thriving. Their cities like Los Angeles and other nearby areas like San Diego, which does not have water, but the cities are thriving because there is enough water coming from Colorado River, and they don't allow this fresh water to go waste in the ocean. So I think certain things like this we should plan and make sure that we don't let the water go waste. I think we have gone past the point where we tell people to switch off the taps. I think that is forgiven. But I think more thing is that we should actually start looking at how do we save our water. I think that's it's a dire state right now.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right, CK. But like anything else, the little things make a big difference, and turning off the taps is the easiest thing you can do. So if you're one of these people that actually does leave the tap running for far too long, just use the tap, use the resource as long as you need to use it. And just think that because it tends to be free, we turn the tap on and out comes water. We don't pay $1 for every litre that comes out of that tap. Over here we've paid in advance, so it's almost out of sight, out of mind. And the only time I know that water costs money is when I go to the store and I buy a bottle of water, and it is $1. It's $1 a bottle. So and this is not a big bottle. This is typically a small bottle, because imagine the process that's gone into that. So it's only when you start to really understand the value of what's happening that you'll start to appreciate what you're using. And I think water is a really good subject to start on, because that will give further discussion over other things that we use. So what we need to be using more is the 5 inches between areas. Let's get ourselves mind fit. And the mind fit way to do the first thing is turn the tap off. And the rest of it, we can start to think ingeniously how to preserve water, how to create water. As you say, there are hydrogen buses around the world now, where the byproduct of running the bus is gallons of water. And as you say, it's beautiful water, it's purified water, the type of purified water that we would put in batteries when batteries weren't maintenance free as they are today. I can remember in my first car, I would take off, unscrew the top of the battery, and I'd be filling it up with pure water. So the battery's got long life. These days, you can't take the tops off. They're completely sealed batteries. So we're moving on, we're progressing. Batteries have got longer life. That's why They're not. You can't undo them and reseal them. So there's so many things that can be done, but let's start thinking of the smart ways. And all you budding entrepreneurs out there, come up with some new ways. Come up with some very smart ways of saving water. Water harvesting is an obvious one. Hydroponics to grow vegetables. We haven't even touched on that subject, but you can use 1% of the water in hydroponics that you would use on an open field to grow the same amount of vegetables. And the other thing is, we're running out of food. But that's another story. That's for another day and for another expert introduction and expert review. CK, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking with you again about a really basic subject here, a resource that we all have to live. Water. Cheers.
Cheers, Neville, and thank you so much for finding time and discussing about this very important subject. In fact, this episode is dedicated to the World Water Day, which was yesterday, and we thought that we will discuss about this today because it is so important for everyone to conserve water, divide water into fresh water, grey water, and black water. I think it is a need of the hour to recycle our water as much as we can. For example, you did it on the ship, we should do it in our home. I think that is where the world is going to.
You're absolutely right, CK. And we'll talk about another subject on another basis tomorrow.
Absolutely, Neville, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow once again. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye to you.
Cheerio. Have fun, everybody.